Hey everybody, and welcome to Green Tips Garden. Coming up, 10 jobs for August. Job number 1. Camelias, rhododendrons and azaleas are all forming their flower buds just about now. However, if they become stressed because of dry conditions, you'll find that come springtime, the flower buds will abort. How do you overcome this problem? Make sure you're giving your camellias, rhododendrons and azaleas sufficient water, and then you'll be able to look forward to a spectacular display come April or May. Job number 2, pruning. Now's a great time to summer prune apples. The apple tree will have put on a lot of vigorous growth over the spring and summer, and now's a great time to prune because you can see how you want to form the shape of the apple tree. But also you can prune it without taking out the flowers and the fruit, which now are obviously very visible. Basically, you take back the leading shoots by about half, and then the side stems to 3 buds in length. Why do you do this? Well, apart from keeping the overall size and structure of the tree under control, it also reduces the water stress on the plant. It allows the plant to channel the water into the developing fruits, and also you're removing those soft tips that can become prone to pests. Secondly, let's talk about lavender pruning, and for this you can see one of my other videos on my channel. But lavender pruning involves taking out the flower stem and about 1/3 of the current year's growth. Now this may seem a bit drastic, and as you do it, be careful not to cut back into the woody material. But by doing this, you allow the plant to bulk up in time for winter, and it avoids one of those leggy lavenders that eventually splays open and doesn't look so attractive. Job 3. Take softwood cuttings. Previously we talked about pruning lavender, and in fact you could use some of that pruning material right now to take cuttings. You can see one of my other videos on my YouTube channel of how to do that. Now's also a good time to think about taking cuttings of Penstemons, pelargoniums and Osteospernums. Depending on where you live, these plants may not prove to be hardy over the winter, so by taking cuttings now and sheltering them indoors or in the greenhouse over the winter, you make sure you have plants ready for the spring. Cut a length of non-flowering stem about 10 centimeters from the tip to the bottom and strip off the lower leaves. Pot this up in a free draining material around the edge of the pot. See one of my other videos on my YouTube channel about how to do this. Job 4. Look out for blight on your tomato and potato plants. This is a fungal infection that can be particularly common in wet and humid summers. There are a few things that you can do to minimize the risk to your plants. Don't water the leaves, but if you do have to water from above, do it during the morning so the plants have the day to dry off. Ensure there's good air circulation around your plants, making sure that they're sufficiently spaced apart. Another option is to buy resistant varieties and practice crop rotation so you're not growing the same plants in the same plot year after year. And lastly, if your potatoes have got to the stage of producing tubers and they've now been hit by blight, cut back the leaves and destroy the infected material and allow a couple of days to pass before harvesting your crop. Blight can survive to the next year on living plant material, so if your plants have been infected, destroy them or put them in the bin so as not to reinfect for the following year. Job 5. Pinch out tomatoes. Your tomato plant will continue to produce fruits until the end of the season, but obviously these won't have sufficient time or sun to ripen. So to encourage your plants to focus their energy on the already developed fruits, pinch out the tip of your tomatoes. Another suggestion is also to remove the lower leaves of the plants, and this exposes the fruits lower down to the sunlight and again helps them to ripen. Job 6. Harvest regularly. Your tomato plants, cucumbers, courgettes and chilies will all keep producing if you keep picking. Also, feed once a week with a tomato feed. Succulents are a really popular houseplant, and job 7 is succulent leaf cuttings. Echeveras and crassulas can be easily propagated by removing a leaf from the stem. Allow it to callus over for a week or two and you may even find that roots develop. pot this on in a free draining compost, and it may be best to mist rather than water so as to make sure that the leaf doesn't rot off. Sedums can also be propagated by taking a length of stem about 4 or 5 centimeters, remove the lower leaves, and make sure that those nodes are just below the soil surface where the roots will develop from. Job 8 again relates to houseplants. Now is a really good time to take leaf cuttings of your begonias, African violets and Cape primrose, especially while the light levels are still high for the developing plantlets. Job 9, keep deadheading those roses and dahlias. With roses, remove the spent flower back to the first 5-leaf junction. This is the point at which new growth and blooms may develop. And with dahlias, observe the difference between the image on the left and the image on the right. The image on the left shows a spent flower bud, whereas the image on the right is a developing flower bud. So make sure you remove only the pointed shaped flower buds. Job 10 is divide bearded irises. These beautiful plants can become overcrowded over time and as a result will produce less flowers. But before you go digging up your group of rhizomes, note the position, how the rhizome lays across the surface of the soil. The baking that these rhizomes get during the summer encourages flowering the next spring. So, dig up your group of rhizomes, discard the older central rhizome, and keep those healthy side rhizomes, which should be about 3 centimeters in length. But before you plant them at about the same depth, trim the leaves back by half. This reduces water loss and also wind rock until the plants become established with their own root system. To replant the rhizome, dig a shallow hole with a small mound in the middle, put the rhizome on the top of the mound and then spread the roots out into the surrounding hole, put back the soil, firm in and water. Thanks for listening to Green Tips Garden. Don't forget to click the like button, and if you'd like to keep up to date with my latest videos, also click the subscribe button.